Google actually just patented, or got granted the patent. Sorry, it's been 2 years in the process, but in January they got granted a patent that they can go read your website and effectively turn it into its own components and then serve searchers an AI generated website on the fly. They'll never see your website.
Chatting GPT. All night, we're losing control. No chatting GPT. Chatting GPT.
Welcome to Chatting GPT, the podcast where I get to speak to interesting humans who are implementing AI. I'm your host, Mary Rose Lyons, founder of the AI Institute, and today I have the great pleasure of being joined by Joe Toscano. Hiya, Joe.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Joe has such an interesting background, folks. He started out as an experienced designer consultant for Google. He worked on helping them shape experiences to keep it sticky, let's say, to lead people in. But he left the Silicon Valley in 2017, I think it was, before Cambridge Analytica actually scandal broke, because of his concerns about the way the tech industry was misusing personal data. So we already know he's one of the good guys. So he wasn't comfortable with that. And in fact, he actually appeared, you're our first movie star that we have on the show. He appeared in the film The Social Dilemma. How was that? Was that an exciting make?
That was radical, yeah. Something I could have never expected.
Oh, right. It was an amazing film. Really, really well-made film, actually. But there's more to Joe than that. Like, he left Silicon Valley and then he put his talents into other ventures. Too many for me even to begin to mention, but he's back now. He has an amazing, interesting business called The Process Automator, which he designed to help businesses navigate data ethics and automation responsibly. That has naturally evolved into his expertise on GEO, SEO, GEO, LLMO, whatever we want to talk about it. It's basically the process of getting your site onto the AI engines, where he is going to talk about that today. So Joe, you're really welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You have spent years warning people. Let's just go a little bit about the unintended consequences of technology. Can you talk a little bit about your views on the current race that's on to reach AGI and the rapid commercialization of generative AI? What are the consequences?
Sure. I mean, the consequences could be terrible or a huge upside is pretty much how I think it's going to go. I don't think there's going to be kind of like a middle ground where we get a mediocre thing at the end. But it's more about like, how is it steered? I think, I don't know that we will see AGI the way that people are talking about it today through the companies that are leading the way today. My theory is actually that we're going to have a bunch of small language models put together, a bunch of, maybe like SMB software businesses. Like, I think this is going to become the era of SMB software or technology, because chat and AI has effectively made it so anybody can code, be creative. I think we're going to see a lot more unique ways of doing things. And then those things will come together and we'll start to build an AGI through that type of system. I don't know that I believe that OpenAI or Claude or these large language models are going to be the thing. But yeah, I'm really interested to see how it steers in the future, in the next 3 to 5 years, and who is also politically, leaders in the world. I think those are all signals that we'll be looking for.
There's so much happening politically. Let's not even go there now. We'll be too depressed by that. But that's a really interesting viewpoint. I think millions of investors would like to prove you wrong. But sure. There has to be the next step on.
Every time that there's like a new release, whether it's co-work or it's their finance or whatever it is, the market has seen a big drop. And I think what we've also seen is that every time it's more or less rebounded. Right. There's an immediate fear that this is the end. I need to pull out, I also don't know how much that fear is human versus AI. A lot of AI that's just running our markets nowadays. And it's just a single trigger that one big investor pulls out and then it triggers a cascade. I don't really know how much I really trust the markets. It's actually something I wrote about in my book, because I felt at some point there'd be a big economic collapse just due to algorithms running all of it, and it may not even be long term, might be like immediate, right? I think we're starting to see those. It may not be like the end of the world crashes, but we're definitely seeing like, oh, here's a really bad day where the market just tanked, and it was because AI just pulled everything out and folled the other AI, and so I think some of that's happening.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. They're just robot. Tell me about the book. The book's called Automating Humanity. I wrote it when I left Google. And the premise is that we can, or we are trying to automate everything that is human, but we can still make it humane. And I still believe that today.
Yeah.
I don't think we're too far in. I think kind of what you were expressing where everything's going AI, I think what we're headed into is an AI native world, just like we had a mobile first world. Right. It was a transition from desktop to mobile first, and now it's from non-AI to AI supported. And I think you're seeing a wide spectrum of that too, right? Like the beginnings of AI is people just creating a text box that will generate some kind of comment for you, right? Every platform has something like that. And I think where we're going to see the divide in what you're actually talking about of new adoption of tools that just take over entire categories is AI native tools. That's the difference between like putting AI that generates your email as like a feature versus a software where it's just natively built only because AI is there. Like it's only feasible because of AI, right? Good example. I'm just testing this out right now. I got so excited to find this. But there's one called pencil.dev. Everybody should look up. It's a new developer tool. Even if you don't code, like just go watch some videos on it. Look at this thing. Effectively imagine like if you had a chat bot or AI system that you could chat with like Figma, and it worked like Figma. You could design in it, right? And what ended up happening is it was connected into your code, and the back end was all JSON, and you could just watch this thing because it has multiple, you can see the mouse moving, and those are workflows that like simply could not exist before AI, right?
Yes.
Could I generate text previously? Not the easiest thing, but like a paragraph or two, not too bad. When you get into these like full-blown AI workflows where it's just like, let me connect everything and then command it to do a couple things for me and the whole operation works, that's AI native. And I think that's what we're going to see as a new paradigm. And there is an opportunity to leapfrog incumbents who just can't move as fast, or they innovate through acquisition and they just won't ever really do it. Maybe they'll
that's
buy
true.
Something.
I think what you're speaking to, Joe, is kind of like what I've been thinking about in terms of if you liken it to back to the early days of kind of evolution of Web 1 websites, there were some search engines. And then it wasn't until Google came along that we had like the search engine, that this was like the definitive search engine. And then when you think of the evolution of e-commerce, and when you think of like the world that we know it now, that all stemmed from those early things. So we're really back in the kind of, in AI terms, we're back in the early days of web where there still isn't that evolved winner. Like there isn't the Google winner yet. Like you're right. No. It's still to come.
Yeah.
It's all up there for grabs. Yeah.
Yep.
But speaking of Google, can I ask you I really am interested to hear if you'd share some of your tips on how SMB listeners, a lot of them are construction sector, would work at doing things differently to ensure that they're found in the AI search results, or that they're included in the model's data so they come up in answers. Sure. Would you speak a little bit about that, please?
Sure. Yeah. And maybe I can give some context to my background, because I know we went on a brief there in the beginning, but when I was consulting for Google, some of the biggest projects I worked on included Google business profiles and the beginning of the merger of AdWords and AdWords Express. There was a day when those two were not combined, and
I remember that.
Early So, and helping with marketing some of those things as well, like I remember working on that AdWords marketing website, and my boss looked at me and he said, you see that blue button in the top right corner that says get started? He goes, if you mess that conversion rate up by 0.05%, that's $20 million a month. 0.05%, right? Like a 20th of 1%.
Wow.
So it was
Wow.
it was obviously, it's big money for them. The business of Google is incredible. As a designer, I was not as excited because it was a lot of templates. But what I learned at Google is, how do you make incremental change in a business that's making the world change? You really have to know business very well. You have to understand those conversion ratios. You have to understand how to grow it, because no change that's going to decrease it will ever be accepted. It's an interesting system, but I learned a lot. I learned a lot about how those systems work and why they do. And that's also what's helped me become such an expert in SEO and web development over time. And, for how that resulted was, initially after Google, as I was traveling the world, I started working with my family's auto shop. I did the SEO for them, basic stuff. I trained a junior who worked under me for many years, and the company grew from 3 to 11 million within 5 years. A lot of because we digitally transformed it. We added a great web presence and pulled in traffic that my family just never thought would ever be possible, right?
Fantastic.
And effectively, what I've started to do with them has turned to a product, but the insights I've gleaned from that is the difference today is actually not as radical as people are going to tell you. I think we need to be honest with people.
The difference between what?
The difference between, you had talked about SEO versus AEO, GEO, whatever people want to call it, AI search, right?
Yeah, AI search.
I think there's a lot of headlines out there, and I've written some about the dramatic changes, and there are some, but I want to say, I think ultimately, what people need to think of this as is the next progression. This isn't a radical leap. Basically, every time Google wanted the internet to change in a certain way, they would change their search algorithms, right? And that's why I believe this is the natural progression, right? There's so much money behind it that they want this to happen, and they will incentivize you to follow the lead. And so the difference is really this. Your standard SEO you've done, it's valuable. Don't go run away from it. Don't go throw it away or act like it's something that is not worth anything. But what you need to think about, and I think the most important part, is topical authority nowadays. All the other things still matter, but what's happening with chat is we're going from a world where, there's people saying auto repair near me or plumber near me. And now they're picking up their phone. They're saying, why is my Toyota Tacoma blowing hot air when it's set to 62? Or why is my Linux system creating complications with my all my HVAC systems in my house, right? They're actually asking questions. And so what that enables, instead of these standard blogs or content pieces that everybody has, and if you're in the business and you invest in SEO, you're being honest with yourself, go look around at other people's websites. They have just about the same blogs as you do, right? The difference now is that you can create such a greater diversity of content and answer a bunch of stuff that so nuanced that nobody would have ever probably thought to write it before. And if we're being honest, probably it wouldn't have been financially responsible to write it before. But now there's this whole new world, all these different topics you can cover, where you could be the only article talking about that. And it's a fresh new world, a lot of new land to grab.
So can I ask you a question then? So as a kind of a takeaway action for anyone listening, would they then go onto their friendly LLM and say, on this topic, give me a list of 50 FAQ questions that people could ask about this, and get a list of 50 and then go off and, program whatever tool they want to use to write 50 different blog posts on those topics. And that's how they're going to rank on that topical authority. So it's kind of like back down to content again, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we just wrote a blog about this on servicestories.com. If people want to go look it up, how do you do this? I'll put that link
in the show notes.
Yeah, it's a thing where we know that if you wanted to, you can do what we do at Service Stories without our software. It's pretty true of a lot of software also, but it's we map out how do you do this process, and then also show you the financial comparables and the workload and the time. But yeah, it's really, if you wanted to do this on your own, you can do exactly what you just said. You can go and say, here's my business, here's a description of it, here's what the industry's like. You can, and ask it too. Ask it to ask you questions. Don't just tell it everything, because you might not be thinking all the context that it needs to do this well. So ask it to ask you, interview you, in a sense. In Service Stories, we truncate the process. Basically, you integrate your management platform, your ticketing system, whether that's TechMetric in the automotive world, or that's Jobber or Service Titan in home services, whatever. You integrate that. We pull in every work order. We convert them into content, and all you do is click a button and say, I want that published. Right? And that's about what our process is. It truncates a lot of the work that you'd have to do. Otherwise, you don't have to guess about what to write about, because you've already taken notes about what the customer was concerned about or what they needed. We transform that into content, and it reflects exactly what your customers actually ask. So it's the most authentic way to tell your story. That's why we call it Service Stories.
Very good. And is that like focused on automotive then? Or
we definitely started it. We started in automotive because my family owns an auto shop. And I was trying to figure this out for them.
Yeah.
So we automated that process, and then found a couple other buyers, and then realized, oh my gosh, we have like plumbers reaching out to us and chiropractors reaching out to us. And generally we found that in the services industry at large, if you're a service business, you're talking to customers. They have a concern. They have a need. A lot of people document it and store it in a digital system nowadays. And basically the same pattern applies across dozens or hundreds of different software platforms. And so we just started to build new integrations and service those industries as well.
That's fantastic. And how long have you had that business for?
We've been at it since last June, so it's pretty new, actually.
Yeah, but that's like 10 years, though, in AI terms.
It is like 10 years in AI. But yeah, we're hoping that we can be a real AI native company. It's like I said, workflows that you just wouldn't have done previously or been able to do. We're literally truncated full phases of the process, not just like improved it a little more efficient, just like AI has taken this part over and just wiped it out. And
Interesting.
Your workload is a lot less.
Interesting. We have had several entrepreneurs and founders on recently, including last time we had Sean Blanchfield on from Gentic. And again, they are an AI native company. So there's more and more of you evolving. Tell me about things like, so I'm just going back to how I've been looking at our own site. Like we have a field that we put onto every piece of content we put onto the website that's written for AI. Almost like a kind of like an amplified metadata, if you will. Is that worthwhile or not?
I think that's a TBD. Like, I believe it will be. Right. I believe it strongly that it will be. I don't know that today it is. Or that it's, my time. it's maybe marginally better, right? Everything I've been listening to, reading, is that it is valuable to some extent, but is it the thing that, like, if you didn't do all the other nuts and bolts, it would hold strong? Probably not. It's more like a +1 on top of the other stuff. You need to have the fundamentals right. And so it's not that it's not important, but I think it's going to become more important. I think that's really the transition in the future we're talking about between, like I said, desktop and mobile. Now we're headed to a world where Google actually just patented, or got granted the patent. Sorry, it's been 2 years in the process, but in January they got granted a patent that they can go read your website and effectively turn it into its own components, and then serve searchers an AI generated website on the fly. They'll never see your website.
Wow.
They'll just see the bits and pieces Google picked out from your website, rebuilt, stacked up, and optimized based on their search history, their current query, all these things. So can you imagine that? And that's why I think, like what you're saying, where you have these snippets in the background, I think that's really the future. I think they're going to componentize the web through AI, and your job is less and less to make a human readable website and more to create an AI agent readable website that can be reconfigured infinitely.
And then what I'm thinking, what the humans should be doing is getting onto more and more podcasts like we're doing right now, because that's where you have full control over your voice and how you're picked up and your brand. And, they're definitely looking
at third party as a much more prominent source, because kind of the thesis is you can't really automate this very well.
Yeah.
I suppose I could have an AI double that you could be talking to right now.
Oh, I wouldn't like that at all. I wouldn't like that at all. But
Yeah.
tell me this, the land of where there could potentially have AI doubles might be China. And I know you've just had a really interesting trip to China. And I'd love if you could share just some of your views on China 2026. What did you see? Tell all the folks back home.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I loved China. I was really concerned going in, but I loved it.
What were you concerned about?
Well, I have 9 years of privacy advocacy work, and everything we're told in the Western world is how much surveillance is in China and how it's abused. And I will confirm that there is a lot of surveillance in China for sure.
Did you feel it?
I can't even. Well, I don't think I felt it so much as like, I just know it. I know it because of the work I've done, right? But like you land and you pretty much can't operate. Well, you can, but it's like very hard to operate in the country if you don't have a local phone number, like a SIM connected to a phone account. It's extra hard if you don't have a local bank account. But like generally speaking, once you're in, it's seamless. I mean, you walk through things and just tap your phone and it works. I had no wallet, no cash. So here's the other flip side of that. You're like, oh, well, there's mass surveillance, they're tracking everything. But I don't know that there's a safer country in the world. I mean, you can leave things outside. You can leave valuables, a computer outside. No one's going to steal it. We've left valuables outside. And what happens is people will pick it up and they'll take it to the police. And then you can just go to the nearest police department, or the police may reach out to you and say, hey, because you're connected, right? They know where you live. They know all the things. They say, hey, we have this thing, come get it. So there's a lot of things that were very valuable. It's just a matter of,
I was just going to say, what can we learn though? Like, what would you take back from China that you saw going on there that you're going, God, I'm going to do that now back home?
Oh, gosh. Probably a lot of things. I mean, the speed of checkout at a grocery store or anything is great. Accessing, getting on a plane or a train, it's a lot of stuff is mostly just walk through. It's a lot simpler, more flexible in a lot of ways. The food ordering. This is probably my favorite. You sit down, not everywhere, but a lot of places, especially like the quick foods or fast casual kind of stuff. You'll sit down and there's a QR code on the table, and I just scan the QR code. It knows what table I'm at. I place my order, and it comes to me. Right. So I still get people to like help bring food and water and stuff. But like, if I'm really hungry, I sit down, my order's in immediately. Right. Or every hotel has robots. Right. That's something where like I just got back to the US. I was in LA, staying in a hotel. Right. And I ordered, I had to get some food for my cat. And they said, well, we can't bring that up to your room. I don't know if it was some kind of security thing or what, but they were like, we can't bring that up to your room. And I was like, if I was in China, they'd pop it in a robot. And that thing would come out, Maybe this hotel's short on staff. I don't know what it is, but human at a certain point can be limiting, right? And China has really amplified the service quality of the country through robots that do a bunch of the little things, like bring something up to your room that you need, or give you some water you need brought up, and it doesn't take half an hour. It's there in 3 minutes, right? So,
I saw that actually in Bangkok airport. They have these little robots going around. They're like support. So if you're stuck or you're lost, you can actually tap it and it'll stop and you can kind of talk to it. Now I felt it's stupid. Of course I had to engage with it, but like you can talk to it, and then it's got this voice, and it'll be like, you're looking for the massage, it's behind you, and it gives you directions. It's really good.
We're still early in it for sure.
We're so early. But
a lot of cool things.
A lot of possibility, a lot of potential in this world that we live in. Joe, thank you so much for coming on to Chatting GPT. I will share a link to service stories, because I think that some people watching or listening, who actually just don't want to get their heads around it. And you've got a proven track record in getting things done, and you're doing it with soul. So I think that's two reasons to check you out. Thanks for being on the show.
I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Chatting GPT.